Well, today is a special conversation for me when products get together and you meet people and you build fun relationships over time. Today I'm joined by Ashley, who runs the Reach program, Tim from Final Alpha, and Giorgi from Purlin. And all, thank you so much for being here today and taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So I want to tell a story. You guys recently... You met through Ashley and through the Reach program from everything that I've got to understand. And then, built a relationship and a friendship together and, products that have a different customer, I guess probably the same customer, but a different reach and a different use case that you were able to see the value in doing something bigger together versus doing it on your own. And I think there's a lot of opportunity that can be learned from that. And that's kind of what I want to share. So, I don't know, Ashley, if you want to go first, or, Tim or Giorgi, I think a little background and then how you guys all kind of came together.
Yeah, I'd love for you guys to tell us kind of about the catalyst for coming together. I know, but let's share that with kind of the audiences, how from maybe first meeting back during Reach to over the last couple of years where you've seen the market go, that's really led you guys to this incredible collaboration. And then from not just collaboration to full-blown, merger. So give us the backstory.
Tim, do you remember that Reach first meeting?
I do. I think it's where Ashley was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a couple of years
ago. Now.
And I think you and I were in the same sub assignment, and they asked us to sell something, and we came up with some crazy, stupid wooden duck idea, and you just killed it. And I was like, oh, wow, this guy is good. That was my first impression. You sold a wooden duck to an audience. And I'm like, this guy doing it was hilarious. I was like, oh, I should be quiet here. let Tim run with this. And you were like, sold the crap out of it. It was awesome. I don't know if you remember that.
So funny. Yeah, no, I do. And I also remember, I think it was, and then fast forward, it was like probably 6 to 8 months later from there, we were in Frisco, Texas at a conference, and, we were catching up after one of the evenings, and Giorgi was like, there's a few of these companies in this cohort with the Reach program this year that if you put them together, it could be some pretty powerful companies, and that I think started to be the initial seed that started to grow from there. But, I think just, when it comes to the two companies coming together, Final Offer, we founded Final Offer with the motion of providing more clarity in the process as people are going through wanting to either make an offer on a home, or if you're selling your home, knowing that you got the best outcome for it, and giving the real estate agent community tools to be able to showcase that, but also be able to speed the process up so that they can reduce days on market when they're representing sellers, being able to get a higher settled list price, and hopefully using that information to generate more business, which we've been able to prove. But it's a component of the whole transaction, right? It's one of the most emotional and anxiety-ridden ones where people don't have information. But we didn't have everything before that part and everything that came after that part. It was just that one little part. And so as we had been going, getting the Final Offer solution adopted by brokerages across the country, one thing that kept coming clear is that they wanted to be able to add more onto this particular platform. And two was we also weren't writing the offers that were going through our platform were either getting completed through the solution itself or being uploaded. But if they were doing it through our solution, it wasn't on the local contract paper. And we knew that was a friction point that we wanted to solve. So we started looking into more AI companies about a year ago and really analyzed a lot of what was in the industry. And, and ultimately we found a couple things. One, there's a lot of AI companies coming out, right? I think there's a new one every week in real estate. And the thing is that the challenge is really easy to spin something up on a open platform, ChatGPT, Claude, what have you. But I mean, even look at what just happened. They just shut down Sora. And we know a bunch of realtors that have been using Sora actually well and generating revenue from it. And all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. Now you got to go find something else. And so for us, it was really important to find a company to potentially partner with or potentially to merge with that had true proprietary AI infrastructure in place that we could go and ultimately execute what we're doing now, which is we wanted to bring a voice to offer product to market where agents were always driving around. They get the phone call when they really don't want it, when they need to make an offer, right? They're bringing the kids to school. They're bringing their kids soccer practice. They're on vacation. They're at the pool. It's always someplace they don't want to be. And then all of a sudden they got to course correct, go get their laptop, spend an hour doing something. Like, how could it be better? Right. And so ultimately, as we started talking, Giorgi and Jeff, Jeff Kennedy, another part of the whole, the whole Reach program, ultimately is like, you guys got to really chat about this because the two of you actually do fit. Well, from the surface, it may not look that way. He's like, I actually think you fit pretty well. So that's ultimately where it went. And then Giorgi, how'd it go from there?
Well, hold on. Before you start, for those that are watching this or that don't know, what is Final Offer?
So Final Offer just is if you go to finaloffer.com, looks like a real estate marketplace. We have all the listings in the states that we cover, a little over nearly 40, I believe. As well as up in Canada. And we provide information that all the other real estate portals and real estate websites don't show, which is there an offer deadline? What does the seller want in terms of the terms of sale for their home? Is there an offer on the table? Are there multiple offers on the table, right? What are those offers potentially if everyone's agreeable to disclose that information? Even to the point that the seller can put a second option on their home to say, look, I want $650,000 for my house, and we listed it. But if someone were to give me $790 right now with these explicit set of terms, I would take it with no negotiation or no hassle. Believe it or not, that's something that the consumer base loves. Buyers and sellers don't do this all the time. So being able to skip the line and have some more certainty in that, yeah, I want to buy this property. Maybe we want to raise our children here. We'd be willing to pay more just to be able to secure that in. That's something that a lot of people are interested in. So that's what Final Offer does.
That's something you guys really pioneered, right? I mean,
I think there's been others
in some other places, but that was your secret sauce. Is in addition to being a platform to go and view it, you were giving the buyer, real transparency into where their offer stood, and to be able to say, I don't want to lose this house over $1,000.
That's right. The other component of it, Troy, is that, when you look at, it's funny, I was at the Mike Del Prete Innovation Hub this week in Boulder, and he started the entire session off with a picture of a for sale sign. And what they did was he had one of his team drive around Boulder trying to find the sign that had the most number of phone numbers on it. So they found it had 4 different phone numbers on it. And so why are there 4 phone numbers on the sign? It's like, you don't know who to call. You don't know why there's 4. And so with us, like that concept, we give our client, they have sign riders that just say scan for offer alerts or follow the action with a QR code. And it's very clear what you're going to get in return for that, right? So it brings the community into the sale of a home where everyone wants to know what their neighbor's house is going to sell for. Why not follow along and get text messages as offers come in, so that they can see what's happening in their local neighborhood, which they really care about and they like to talk about. But at the same time, for the actual serious buyers that are in the mix for that property, this is gold. They're not going to lose out. They're going to know when they need to make a decision, or they're going to know when they need to walk away. And that's gold for everyone as part of the transaction. It helps their agent guide them through the process and help them with that decision of, do you want to move forward or do you want to walk away, right? For the seller, it's huge because they get an understanding that everyone is getting communicated to. No one is missing out. They're not going to have someone come after the fact and say, hey, I would have made an offer if I had known. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's really helped both sides of the equation.
So Final Offer, very much, forward-facing consumer. And then you come over to Purlin, which is, ecosystem and, structure for the brokerage, back office, compliance, website, consumer-facing products displayed, but not necessarily something the consumer actually interfaces with.
Yeah. So like what Tim said, that's actually a very good example of why this merger makes sense, right? So let's say in the Final Offer marketplace, and by the way, like when you subscribe to those or when you follow a property, it's super addicting to see what's happened with the offers. Like you're waiting for the next text message. It almost becomes, it's very engaging. Even if you're like not going to buy that house, it's a very engaging way to interact with the inventory in the marketplace. But where this merger takes it like one step further or 2 steps further is like, okay, we have that house, but on the legacy Purlin side, one of the things we do for agents is we basically help them with AI figure out which client actually would prefer what house. Like we do the simulation on behalf of the agent and the customer, and we recommend like, hey, here's a property that Ashley's going to love. It has the kitchen she will love. We know that from their behavior, it's within budget, it's within commute. She hasn't seen this yet to Ashley about this. But now the offer, we also can bring that matching algorithm and all of our AI recommendations and bring offer into it and say, okay, a property that Ashley would have loved just went through this process on final offer. This is how it applies to the next property that came to the marketplace. This is a talking point for you with your buyer, right? So it brings this whole buyer engagement and tells agents, like, talk to this buyer about this property, about this offer. This is how you help them find their dream home. And I think that layer, and another layer where we are enhancing with like the platform that you mentioned is compliance and everything is like offer creation, right? You walk out of the showing of the property as an agent and the buyer loves it. We are integrated already with all the documents. We're integrated with mortgage companies on the legacy Purlin side. So now all you have to say is like, hey, AI assistant, send me the offer with the pre-approval letter attached so I can review it and make the offer as I'm walking to my car, right? So that's another play. You can see how we took that point that's super emotional and exciting and just extended that into the process, as Tim said, before and after the showing moment, right? So, and that is kind of encapsulates, in that example, Troy, that encapsulates kind of how this merger makes sense.
So, Ashley, you see a lot of technology through the Reach program. I mean, you see just about everything as it's coming up because people want to be involved. Mergers like this, or, you know, merger acquisition, or just joining forces, however you want to call it, like really do make sense. Like, do you see more of this type of thing happening? Like, is it more beneficial, like, to do stuff together in this instance than it is to go at it alone?
Absolutely. Of course, it always depends. Consolidation can be a really positive thing. You know, we look at everything, or we try to look at everything under the sun, and the game has changed a lot. You know, 10 years ago, the field of technology for agents, brokers, and even for consumer-facing solutions, it's just exponential what's available today. So that's a good thing, but it's also a really difficult thing for both consumers and agents to navigate. So consolidation can be really healthy because rather than having thousands of point solutions, it's integrating workflows that just make sense together for everyone's benefit, consumer, for agent. We used to really dislike the phrasing end to end because that was something that was more of a pitch, a sales pitch more than anything, but not really accurate. And now we actually see viability in the possibility of end to end. And that's why I think we're such big fans of what Purlin and Final Offer have constructed. Is it genuinely is a valuable way to create an end-to-end flow throughout the transaction. I think a lot of that is the way they have artfully brought together consumer and broker-facing solutions. I think that's what's different. What a lot of other end-to-end solutions try to do is just focus on one stakeholder, and they're really focused on multiple stakeholders. The other key is not all technologies are compatible with each other, and sometimes that's the fundamentals of the company. And so we hope that through the community we created at Reach that led these two companies, but also that's part of why they were chosen, is because they stand out as great technologies, but also as great companies too. And in order to build sustainable technology, you also have to have a great team and a great company. You have to be purpose-driven. You have to, the startup space is exhausting and long as this industry is. So you have to be really, really, dedicated to the craft. And these are two teams that are. So they're a great team to work together in more ways than just one. It's more than just the technology.
When you look at...
Yeah, Troy, just the reason I started my point with the human side of it is as important as technology, as you said, Ashley, right? The human, it's difficult to merge companies. And Troy, you were kind of going down the road a little bit earlier. Merging companies, merging teams, merging egos, it's very difficult, right? And the human has to fit as well as technology and the business. And I think with ours, I don't know if we're unique this way, but all of those pieces really fit. human, business, and technology. And you need that trifecta, I think, to make something like this work. It's difficult, to Ashley's point, but when it works, it really works also.
Well, I was going to ask is like, what matters the most in a deal like this? Is it the culture, the product fit, the customer overlap, the trust in the leadership, or the distribution? Because it's kind of a mixture of everything. But like, what's the big piece that like says, yeah, this really works?
I'll give you my take and Tim can give you his. My take is trust. I think that's the most important thing, because what trust does, it lubricates speed. Okay. And I think Tim and I and his legacy team and my legacy team, we had already had trust in each other. Ashley and team did a great job curating that cohort. I think that was the greatest cohort you've ever had, Ashley. I really do. Like, I meant what I told you, Tim. Like, there's 3, 4, 5 companies here that together, just like, I see why they put us together. And then a lot of us, we didn't merge all of us, obviously, but a lot of us have partnerships. We do stuff for each other. That is also happening behind the scenes. But I think to answer your question, for me, it's human trust, because everything else can be lubricated around it. All the other things need to make sense. But to me, that's like the pivotal piece. Tim, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think the other thing with this particular merger, I mean, we've been through in our previous lives a number of these. We actually, at Final Offer, we did do an acquisition of another Reach company they call Open Negotiations out of Australia. We had purchased their North American business a couple of years ago. Really, it does come down to trust. I think it also comes down to the overlap, though, or like the collaboration between the companies from everything you just said, Troy, right? Like product team. It is wild. I mean, Final Offer, we have an amazing development team, right? Amazing product. We're going after consumer facing and agent and broker facing. You've got, our team has, some good relationships in the industry and some great relationships with our client base. You take the Purlin team, amazing AI engineering, right? Like nearly 50 people on staff with AI engineers. This isn't just like 2 people creating something on, Claude. This is like for real. I've been building this stuff for years. The fact that I've been 100% focused on product quality, working with the biggest and the best in the industry to make sure that this stuff is rock solid to be able to go scale. The timing of both of these companies and our product suites coming together, like couldn't be better, frankly. And as we started looking at it, it's funny because a lot of folks that know us in the industry are like, wow, we didn't see this coming. And then we start to discuss about where the product fit. I mean, just you see a picture of it and it's like, oh yeah, offer negotiation, boom, it's right in the middle. And then you've got the front end side of lead gen and, agent client collaboration, and then contract compliance and deal rooms, bringing all parties together, and, an underlying operating system that can actually combine all of the technologies that a brokerage agent or team are using in one solution. The only way to do it is to have those parts. And we actually have all of those parts that go together in a way that like we couldn't have probably designed it. It just happened to work out this way. So there's a lot of luck involved with companies as they succeed as well. And I think that's part of this, is we're lucky in terms of timing, meeting and all of that has come together. So now we need to use that luck to hopefully our advantage and help the industry be better as we go forward with an AI platform.
I think each of you can answer this one, but like, what do you say to founders who are protecting their ego, but they really should be exploring a strategic fit?
What I would tell them, what I would say is speed has changed. The level of speed has changed and the paradigm has changed. So ego is entirely irrelevant at this point. Like, it was never really relevant, but now it's actually preventing you from moving at the speed that you need to be moving. Like, the speed is super important right now. You need to have a platform, you need to have a team, you need to have IP, you need to have all those things, but ego can prevent you from unlocking the maximum potential of those things. And therefore, you will be slower than us for sure, and you will lose. Tim, do you agree?
Yeah. I also think, you got to look at like where things are at with the industry and the market, and being flexible to understand that, I think one thing that we've seen, I've been in the industry now for a little over 5 years, like understanding the business models that work well when things are going great, but all of a sudden interest rates rise, and look at all the companies that are no longer or had to take a complete pivot just to be able to survive. It's really challenging, right? So trying to build something that's lasting, that doesn't matter whether things are going great or things are the way that they are today. If you're building something sustainable and that's lasting, work with those that you can. There's no reason for an ego to be involved with this.
Ashley, you want to answer it?
Well, from a venture perspective, the game has just simply changed. And a lot of that impacts startup and specifically the capital flowing not just into prop tech, but into the AI, quote unquote bubble that we're seeing. I think the focus on being operationally efficient is really important right now. Gone are the days where you could just slap a really good pitch deck together and go fundraise a few $1 million. Not that was ever a good strategy per se, but the game has really changed, and what investors are rewarding has changed as well. So that's also really part of it too, and where you can't let ego get in the way when considering strategic collaboration, merger, acquisition, but fundraising strategy varies significantly. And so that can often be a barrier for two great companies working together. It obviously wasn't here, but we have seen that happen before. There's no wrong way to fundraise per se. But if you're bootstrapped versus, a company that you're working with, that maybe doesn't have the easiest cap table to manage, those are going to be heavy conversations you're going to have. So that's another area where ego just, kind of have to set it aside when working through something like a merger or an acquisition. That is something that we obviously guide our companies on. There's a lot of great advisors and consultants in the space that can be really helpful for founders right now. That is one thing that I hope that a lot of companies that maybe saw themselves a lot further along than they are today, I hope that they have that openness to these opportunities for consolidation that are out there, because it can be a really positive thing for the industry, for the startup founders, but ultimately for the recipients of the technology. They need it too. They need to see that collaboration rather than just having their inboxes filled with thousands of, I'm doing it best, I'm doing it better than everybody else. So the companies that are focused on that, I think, will win ultimately.
Do you think this is a one-off kind of merger or preview of what's next for PropTech?
It's certainly a one-off in these are two really unique and incredible teams. So I can't say that there's another, two companies and founding teams like this out there, and what they've created, I think, is so unique. But yes, to more consolidation. Yes, to, there are other conversations happening between other technology companies thinking about how to pair their technologies together. We want to encourage more of that, but I do think we have something really rare with what the teams here are doing.
And when you integrate two companies like this, how do you integrate without slowing down the momentum that made each one interesting in the first place?
I'll take that one, Troy. I think you have clear vision that is easy to communicate and understand, market, customers, and the employees and the staff members and team members. That's like the most important thing. And we spend a lot of time in the founding team aligning on that vision. And that was part of the trust as well. And just to go back to the earlier question, we started with a partnership conversation, right? And you don't need to go and jump into let's merge. That's not hey, can we create more value to what Ashley said for customers and professionals? Mm-hmm. Yes, we can. What's the best way to do that? We looked at this, we looked at that. This was the best way to unlock the value. And it may not be. You could partner with other companies, and that may also work in terms of picking up your speed, being more horizontal, being more end-to-end, et cetera. So that's just going to comment on that. But clear vision, alignment around that vision, getting key people involved in challenging you openly on that vision as a leadership team. And then once that process is done, just vigorous, relentless communication around what everyone must be doing, what are the key priorities, when the next opportunity will be for, resetting the vision, and just having clear communications. But I think what we've done well is we did all those steps. We said, here's the vision. We put people in small groups of 2 or 4, right? We said, go ahead, challenge this, tell us what we're missing, and tell us what you're going to do to help us succeed. And we did a very deliberate exercise. It was tremendous. The response we got from our team was incredible. The founding team would not have thought of the things that came out of those small little groups, but with that framework. And now that we have behind us we're aligned, we're marching in the same direction, and we're all executing because we share that vision as a team. And I think that's very hard to do, especially for us, because we're in like 5 time zones. I don't know how many time zones we're in, Tim. And it's impractical to put everyone in the same time zone or in the same room, even. That's one of our goals, actually, to do that. But you just have to like focus on that, Troy, and execute it, just like you're executing a customer request or a product feature that you must have or a bug that you must debug. Solving this piece is just as important, if not more important, than all of those other things.
So using your combined forces as the example, what would you share with other founders from this deal in the way that they need to think bigger than their product silos?
Yeah, I think what Ashley said, end to end is the right way. It just, before AI, it was impractical unless you had a huge capital base to talk end to end. That's why you had no credibility, I believe, right? But the reason we founded Purlin is with AI, we saw the opportunity with AI and machine learning back then to actually make that end-to-end come true, right? We saw that vision very early on with the technology that was changing right in front of us. So I think that the comment I would make is end-to-end in whatever you're doing, however you define it, is more possible now than ever, but you must know what you're doing. You must be expert in your domain. Just learn whatever you're doing. Learn the things before it. Learn the things after it. At least 2 steps before, at least 2 steps after. And I think that will make your product better. However you deploy, whatever channel, being context aware. If you're not end-to-end, being context aware, 2 steps before, 2 steps after will help you with your product to think bigger. Because we are doing it. We have a horizontal product. We're going to start swallowing things up. We're not going to do everything, but we will do things that are emotional inflection points. And we will solve them with AI, just like we're solving the offer or we're solving the visual CMA. Like, we're already taking the most emotional things. We're connecting the dots horizontally, and we're solving the most emotional points in the process with AI, and help us solve other emotional processes. Connect a couple of steps before and after, and let's connect the process into one big cohesive. Because at the end of the day, Troy, like, buyers are buying a home. They're not thinking about mortgage, title, escrow, broker. Like, they're not thinking about 5 different things. They're just buying a home. That's it. Sellers are selling their home. They're not even thinking about mortgage, right? Mortgage is a tool to buy your home. So how do we align with the consumer? How do we make our professionals that we represent align with the consumer, with our technology? Like, that's all we're worried about, and that's all we're concerned about at this new company called now Purlin Enterprises.
Love it.
Yeah. Troy, I was going to say one last thing is that when it comes to the current ecosystem, whether you're an individual agent, a team, or a brokerage, they're all looking at everything that they're spending, not just technology, everything, extremely hard. So if you are not providing value, if you're not moving the needle, if you're making an agent do one more thing, good luck. You're going to need to figure out how you actually strip that stuff away from the work, not creating more work. And this is a general theme that we're seeing across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're a lead gen tool, whether you're a communication tool, whether you're a transaction management tool. If you're not cutting costs while increasing efficiencies or increasing on the revenue side of things, like, it's going to be really hard for folks to buy your products moving forward. Everyone's inundated with too many things already. You need to be able to really move the needle when it comes to what you're providing.
Because I just want to circle back around into the what you guys really do for the consumer, and then I'll let you guys go. But what becomes easier for the agents and brokerages now that the 2 products are under one roof? Like, and is it the benefit of the agent, or is it for the benefit of the consumer, the buyer or the seller?
It's actually both now, which is to me, it's one and the same thing, right? If I'm adding the value to the consumer, adding value to the agent. So to me, it's one thing. But the immediate things that are becoming easier with us is, I love this property. I want to make an offer right now before anyone else makes it. Right? That's an immediate thing that neither of us could have done without the other party. Right? So that's immediate change that's happening in the marketplace. Another change that immediately is getting better for the consumer is, now that I have an accepted offer, I don't need to stress about, like, When is my appraisal? When like we handle all of that with AI for you, and the AI like proactively manages the process for you. Like that's an immediate, and you can also see how it's related to the offer process, right? But it's an immediate lift for the consumer as well as obviously as well as the agent. And then for the agent, there's a lot of like, hey, I want to make an offer, do this for me. Hey, I want to invite this customer to a branded collaboration space where they can explore properties, recommend properties, and send them the invitation, right? So just automating those relationship building blocks, not the relationship, but the building blocks and the pipelines that solidify the relationship between agent and the consumer. Just automating those tasks is another thing that's happening already rapidly with our combined platform.
So Troy, think about it this way, right? If you look at the underlying operating system that we built, right? So it's called Purlin OS. And the fact is it can take not just our technologies, but the technologies that the brokerage or the agent or team are using and combine them with a common AI engine that can understand what's happening across all of those pieces of technology, as well as all those services, even reaching into your email calendar, all of that. So it can tee up opportunities for agents and for their clients or their sphere of influence they otherwise wouldn't have if you didn't have it all connected. And so the ability to do that and to be able to switch things out in the future where you have an agentic world that's integrating with other solutions, where now an agent can truly be driving around, talking at their car, saying, I need a listing presentation created for my meeting this afternoon. I need you to book 3 meetings with so-and-so this evening. And those 2 contracts that we have in the pipe, where are they currently at when it comes to what's left? That's a real world scenario now that has not existed, right? And everyone's been talking about this type of game. This game is actually now coming to the foray where it's going to change the way that everyone's able to work for the better. And at the end of the day, what it does is it provides buyers and sellers a much better experience where they can converse and get real-time answers to questions, where the AI engine is giving them the answers when it has it, or it's teeing it up to an agent or the loan officer or the title officer or attorney when it's their time to communicate. So that's the power of putting this all together.
Well, and with that, Ashley, you brought them all together. Thank you.
Thank you for giving them the opportunity to share more what they're working on. I mean, they're really just getting started. So this is a pretty exciting time.
Any last questions for them?
No last questions, but I'll take a stab at answering your last question. I've grown up around real estate. I've always wanted to be an agent myself, but never taken that chance. But I've always supported, or I guess for the last 10 years, been able to support real estate. So I see hundreds of transactions and interact with brokers and agents every single day. And obviously the technology providers too. I'm also a consumer. I've bought, sold, and rented properties in the last 2 years. So I can see the positives from this Purlin OS system and the merger between Purlin and Final Offer with every single hat that I wear, serving the agent and the broker, but also serving myself selfishly as a consumer. If the agents that are supporting me as a consumer are using Purlin's system to do better quality lead generation, better quality property touring, communicating better with clients, I'm going to receive that as a consumer. I'm going to get to the property through my agent, going to get to the properties that make the most sense for me faster. I'm going to have a higher quality interaction. I'm going to have a faster, closing experience, which is going to make me happier. They're going to get me through all of these messy back end pieces that I don't even necessarily see as a consumer. But Purlin might even be able to, and Final Offer might even be able to, because of the transparency it offers, allow me as a consumer to better understand every single minute, hour, days, weeks, months that they are spending on my behalf that often goes unseen. And then ultimately, I'm going to have a better transaction because of all of it. So if I were an agent or a broker, I would obviously be using these technologies. But as a consumer, I'm really grateful that they exist, because that means my experience will get better. This is what we're spending every day doing, is finding companies like this that are making, the experience better for every stakeholder. So, and in May, we'll have the next batch of innovators for you to take a look at.
Exciting. Well, thank you guys. I do really think that like the next wave of prop tech winners is not necessarily the tools that stand alone the loudest, but the tools that really combine strengths, collapse the friction, and solve more for the transaction than one connected experience.